Oh, glory day. I
Oh,
am one of the few who was able to
proud.
go
The
to
Marines.
the AMC theater on Wednesday, August 28th, and get myself a Batman Bat Signal popcorn bucket.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen you as motivated as you've been this week, both with your activity, your day with Raffy, and then also, trying to coordinate getting that Batman popcorn bucket.
Yes, the showtime for the movie that I was taking my son to on that Wednesday was 12:30. I knew that the movie theater opened at noon. I was there at 11:59, ready to go. I got my bucket. They said, "Oh, we also have these cups, a commemorative Batman cup." By the way, they're celebrating the 85th anniversary of The Dark Knight. It's a pretty sweet cup. I'm going to show these both off when I'm at home, and I can do that. But it's the popcorn bucket. It's a bat signal. You can open it up. You can put popcorn in there. You can flash it with the light on. It's quite stunning, if you ask me. And then the cup, if you turn it ever so, it shows you the bat signal, and then it shows you the Batmobile that goes with said signal.
It's a nice little day you had there. It really rounded you out, and now finally your home collection is complete.
Having said that, as I was walking to the theater with my son to see Inside Out 2, it's a cute little movie,
Is it?
I noticed that a worker was taking apart the Deadpool and Wolverine cardboard cutout
The
thing that you
stand-up
can
cutout
oh, yeah, the
things.
stand-up. And I said, "Hey, what do you plan on doing with those?" And they said, "I'm going to throw these away." So I said, "Can I have them?" And they said, "I don't care."
Now explain to me what happened next? Did you have to now go back to your vehicle, put them in your
Yes,
car, and
that
then
is
go
correct.
back to the theater?
So I had already gone back and forth to my vehicle once to put my Batman popcorn bucket in my car.
Right, right, as one
Then I
does.
came back and I did it again with the 6'5" standees of Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds that I now have at my house, and I'm not sure what to do with.
What did your wife think about those acquisitions?
She hasn't seen them yet. So Hugh
Oh,
Jackman
okay.
is in my office at the moment. He's sitting behind my door. Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool is in my attic, but I'm thinking that I can probably like use them to scare her at some point, right? Like she thinks there's a big physically imposing man in the house.
100%. Yeah, you get a home aloner.
Yeah, I'm gonna spook her. I'm gonna spook her. But what a day at the theater!
One goo, three, yeah. Goo. Jaws 3. Goo. King of Queens. Goo. Meryl Streep. Entertainment.
I'm Goo,
And I'm Mac.
and we are the hosts with the most, baby.
Today, in anticipation for its sequel next week, we are discussing one of Goo's favorite movies of all time,
Yes.
and quite frankly, one of my favorite movies of my childhood. So this is 2
Mhm.
weeks in a row we're doing this. Beetlejuice. That's
Yeah.
right, Beetlejuice. This hit theaters on March 30th, 1988, and
Wow.
Goo, it
Mhm.
made $8 million in its opening weekend.
Oh,
It actually made more in its second weekend because it picked up quite a buzz.
word of
Made
mouth.
made 8.5 million on its second weekend. It's very rare for a movie then, now, or ever to make more in its second weekend. So that's quite the accomplishment.
That is a podcast topic that I would like to do if
Oh,
we can
there you
figure
go.
it out.
Put a pin in that.
Yes.
Ended up making 73.7 million worldwide upon its initial release. It only made $2,099 internationally.
What
That
was
is,
caught in your throat right there?
I don't know. Who knows? Don't ask
Like,
questions.
I hope he figures this out.
It made $2,099 internationally, which what did it one international theater have Beetlejuice?
Well, I don't think it can be shown in China because of the ghosts.
Okay. There's like 195 other countries though.
But which ones matter?
It ended up being the 10th highest grossing film of 1988, and all of that money was made Goo off a budget of $15 million. So it
Mhm.
like what, septupled its budget there, set
Math.
or quint, whatever
Yeah.
that is. It made a pretty penny for the box office. It's been re-released a couple times since in celebration. I believe it got released in 2018 for the 30-year anniversary. So there's that. Goo, Beetlejuice is a PG rated comedy and fantasy, but is it a dark comedy, a dark fantasy, a quirky comedy, a supernatural fantasy? All of
Ugh.
those things are listed. Not quite as fun as a sea adventure, but some of those are deep. I like supernatural fantasy.
Yeah,
That's
because I think that most of the comedy in this movie is pretty morbid.
yeah, but it's more of a it's a pretty split actually between like dark comedy and dark fantasy. It does a good job of that. So
Like,
I
I
won't
enjoy
lean
it,
one
but
way or
I
the
could
other.
see how someone's like, I don't really care for how they depict the dead or like,
Sure.
but that also leads me to questions. And this is a spoiler filled podcast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You have seen many of dead bodies, right?
I would say many, but I've been around a dead body or two.
Now, you would think that Alec Baldwin and Geena Davis, their characters should have looked a little more ghoulish after drowning, right?
Well, no, because it's a spiritual representation of them. It's not their actual
No, because when you
bodies.
go to the afterlife, people have slits in their throat, they're being hung, they're flattened, they're
Well,
in
if
bus
if
accidents.
they just drowned, then it's really not that bad.
Okay, that's why I asked you. That's why you're the expert. I have no issue with it. I'm asking
Sure,
questions.
sure. Goo, this movie has a runtime of 92 minutes, 92 crisp minutes, and honestly, it might have been able to even be like 10 minutes shorter. There's a couple things you could cut out of here, but in general, a really brisk watch.
It is a get in, get out movie. And I would even say that I'm not even sure if it reaches the 90 minutes if you're going to take opening and end credits out.
Yeah, and actually before the end credits hit, I believe it's 89 minutes. So there's like 3 minutes of credits at the end and a couple minutes at the
Yeah, so
beginning.
when you point out that Michael Keaton is in less than 18 minutes of this movie, look at percentage wise. He's in like most of it.
Yeah, it's still 20% of the movie.
The
So
movie is
it's
25 minutes long.
Go on Roddy T's. This is a very visually pleasing double 82% from the
Wow.
critics and the audience. So
Yeah.
82, which I think is fair. That speaks to a little bit of what you're talking about the morbidness and some of that. There's just a certain amount of or a certain percentage of people that just aren't going to buy into what this movie's trying to do. And I think you could just say that about Tim Burton movies in general.
But this was also before Tim Burton was known as being this Tim Burton. This was really the first one because Pee-wee's Big Adventure wasn't like this.
No, that's
This
true.
kind of set into motion Edward Scissorhands.
I think this
Batman
and
Returns.
Scissorhands really sets the mood for what a Tim Burton movie or what you would expect from a Tim
Yes,
Burton movie.
agreed.
71 on Metacritic as well. So again, pretty well reviewed. Good. This movie is written by Michael McDowell, Larry Wilson, and Warren Scarron. You really wouldn't know McDowell and Wilson. McDowell also wrote The Nightmare Before Christmas. Unfortunately, he passed in 99, at a very young 49. Larry Wilson also wrote The Addams Family, the first one, and The Little Vampire, the Jonathan Lipnicki vehicle, The Little
Oh.
Vampire.
Now, I will say that the original script for this movie was written by McDowell and then Lawrence Sinellick. That's what I have here. I'm not sure how I spelt it. I'm apologizing here. But originally, the character of Beetlejuice was supposed to be a murderous winged demon who eventually kills Lydia to bring her to the afterlife, and it was supposed to have no comedy.
Yeah, and he was also supposed to take a human form of a small Middle Eastern man, which
Yeah,
is a
I saw
weird
that as well.
tidbit.
Yeah, and then
Weird tidbit in the original
Tim Burton
script.
saw that and said, let's make this a dark comedy.
Yeah. The third writer here, Warren Scarron, you would know from Beverly Hills Cop 2 and also the writer on 1989's Batman. And unfortunately, he passed just a year later in 90 at the age of
Oh.
44. So a couple rough ones there.
Mhm.
Obviously, this movie is directed by Tim Burton. You spoke about this a minute ago. Right before this movie, he makes Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And that's the movie that really puts him on the map and starts getting him opportunities like this one.
So, through my research, that is internet, web videos, so on and so forth, I did see that Wes Craven was approached to direct this movie when it was more of a straight horror movie.
Oh, interesting. I suppose that would be one of two people you would go to, Wes Craven or John Carpenter.
They were the
Uh,
only horror directors at the time.
Right after this, of course, he makes 1989's Batman. More recently, Goo, we saw Dumbo a few years ago, and that movie straight up stunk. He has not made a movie since, and
Yeah.
I don't know what's on the horizon for him because there's nothing on his IMDb page as well. However, he has been involved in the Wednesday show on Netflix starring Jenna Ortega. I don't know. He's not the creator of the show, but he's directed some. I think he produces some, and he's still doing that going forward.
Yeah, I saw that he was debating retirement after Dumbo. He didn't care for the results, the work process of it, but Beetlejuice has reinvigorated him.
Goose synopsis. The
Yeah.
spirits of a deceased couple are harassed by an unbearable family that has moved into their home and hire a malicious spirit to drive them out. This movie stars Alec Baldwin as Adam Maitland. Geena Davis is Barbara Maitland. That was originally supposed to be Angelica Houston,
Oh.
actually. She dropped out due to an illness. In comes Geena Davis. Catherine O'Hara as Delia Dietz. Between this and Home Alone, I've spent an awful lot of time with Catherine O'Hara during my childhood.
I'll tell you what, I think during the rewatch, that was the character that really popped out to me as like, I really enjoy her. I've overlooked her in the past.
I almost think they had too many. She wasn't unhinged enough. I wish there was a little bit of more of her actually.
Well, she couldn't be so unhinged with Otho there.
Sure. Playing her husband is Jeffrey Jones as Charles Dietz.
I think that is my biggest issue watching this movie now, is they need to find a way to take him out of the movie and CGI in someone else.
Oh, I don't mind him at all.
Well, the issue is what he did off the camera, is what I'm saying.
I'm not aware of
what he was arrested for and everything else. Give it a Google.
All right.
It kind of affects the viewing.
Fair enough. I was not aware of the mishap there.
Yes.
Winona Ryder as Lydia. Lydia Dietz.
Winona Ryder as Lydia.
This was her first big break, Goose. She was in a couple things prior to this, but no one's ever seen those.
Yeah.
No one's ever heard of those. And also, Heathers comes out almost exactly a year after this, so a good back-to-back, and then she's in Scissorhands the next year. She was 16 during filming in this, and that's pretty impressive to think back on because, like, yes, she's playing a teen, but she feels like an adult in this role, and it's very impressive. Goose, some of the other young 80s stars that were in consideration for this: Sarah Jessica Parker, Brooke Shields, Lori Loughlin, Diane Lane, Justine Bateman, Molly Ringwald, Juliette Lewis, and Jennifer Connelly. But the person that came in second, the runner-up for Lydia Dietz, was Alyssa Milano, who, of course, was starring in Who's the Boss at the time. Annie McEnroe is Jane Butterfield. She's the realtor. Glenn Shaddix
sucks. Yeah. Oh, my God. That first scene, that was one that popped out to me, too, of like, look, you guys can't have a family. You shouldn't own this big house. Lady, they clearly just tried to have one, and I don't know what's happened recently with them because they talk about trying again. Mm-hmm. But, like, that's what you're going to bring up to them is that, you are
it's real.
Have children. You should sell your house.
Real low-hanging fruit there. That's a tough one. She does play the role well, though.
Yeah.
You mentioned Otho, played by Glenn Shaddix. He's great. He's like the interior designer, also does the seance thing.
I would also like to point this out, is that the interior design of the house after the Dietzes move in 3 months in, I think it looks quite snazzy.
What's it, like Art Deco? Is that what you would call it?
I like the look of it. And I love the look of the porch that they construct.
I agree.
Like, the siding of the house.
The wall, but no roof. Yeah.
I think that looks dynamite.
I totally agree with you. Totally in on Otho's design.
Yeah.
Sylvia Sidney plays Juno, who's their afterlife caseworker.
She's also fantastic.
She's very good. Very good. And then other than that, I guess all you would need to know is Michael Keaton as Betelgeuse. That's right.
I was just going to ask you, how do you say and spell the name?
I like the way that Baldwin pronounces it when he first is reading the ad there, Betelgeuse. Interesting thing to think about here, especially since he dies a couple years after this. Burton originally wanted Sammy Davis Jr. for this role, and that would have been really interesting if it was Sammy Davis Jr.
So there was that. The studio said no, and then the studio pushed Dudley Moore and Sam Kinison. Now, I could see Kinison doing something similar, But the whole thing with Beetlejuice and Michael Keaton is that Keaton worked on this character and really shaped it into what it was.
Yeah, I think once he was attached and once everyone saw what he was doing, they certainly gave him more freedom. And also because the idea of the character was ever changing anyways
Yes.
when they first developed it, I think they were happy to see him take it in that direction.
And yeah, he was recommended by David Geffen. And then Keaton took inspiration for the Beetlejuice character from Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Goo.
Yes.
Here's a little background on the name Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is a red supergiant star in the constellation of Orion.
Yeah.
It is usually the 10th brightest star in the night sky, and after Rigel, the second brightest in its own constellation. It is distinctly reddish, semi-regular variable star whose apparent magnitude, varying between 0 and plus 1.6, has the widest range displayed by any first magnitude star. Betelgeuse is the brightest star in the night sky at near infrared wavelengths. So how about that?
Good job. Well done.
The name Beetlejuice was derived from the Arabic
Oh my
Yad
God.
al-Jaza,
Okay. All right. All right. Come on.
aka the Hand of Orion.
We
How
don't
about
need
that?
this podcast to be longer than the movie. Also,
Aboriginal groups in
oh,
South
Jesus.
Australia have shared oral tales of the variable brightness of Beetlejuice for over 1,000 years.
All right. So because Keaton was only in about 17 and a half minutes, under 18 minutes of this movie, he actually shot all of his scenes in 2 weeks.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Goo
work.
also,
You
of
did it.
course,
Yeah.
the second iconic factor here, other than Keaton, is the music and score composed by Danny
Absolutely.
Elfman.
Yes.
And it's such a big part, especially considering the titular character is barely on screen. The score in the music competition becomes such a big
You
part
need
and
that
a character in
swelling.
its own right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need that swelling. And I was like, while watching it, like that is what pops out to you. I think this is his best work on a score. I'm not saying soundtrack because Nightmare Before Christmas is more of a soundtrack, but I think this might be because you look at Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Batman, Good Will Hunting, Flubber, the Spider-Man thriller.
Edward Scissorhands is pretty great too.
It is Big Fish, Nacho Libre.
Yeah.
But I think this is where it's at, man.
He's also like odd. He did Silver Linings Playbook, Age of Ultron. He did the Joss Whedon Justice League. He's been everywhere and done everything. He's obviously been around forever.
The
But
Simpsons theme song.
yeah, it's fucking what a career. But to your point, just with the opening credits, that score over the opening credits is awesome and
It
sets the
sets
mood for the movie.
It really does because like it brings you into this small town, this everybody knows your name town.
Yeah.
Of like this is where we are, and you could also feel like that's if the music was a little less like bouncy, that could be the start of a horror movie.
Yeah, you're right. It does bring in the fun factor to it, the comedic factor built in to the composition. Goose, speaking of that town,
Yes.
the fictional town is Winter River, Connecticut, and I will say anyone from the New England region would not believe it as Connecticut. It feels like Vermont. It feels like New Hampshire. And in fact, they shot this in a small town, the exterior shots anyways, in the small town of Corinth, Vermont. Population of 1,400. So a real
Actually,
small
14,
town.
the population of 14.
1,400 in a total area of 48 square miles. So that's kind of crazy to think about. They also filmed the exterior shots for the upcoming sequel in the same town.
Hell yeah. And you know, we can also bring up Oscar award-winning movie.
That's right. That's right. Academy Award winner for best makeup. So there it is.
Deservingly so. I think the makeup and the stop motion claymation in this is it brings you back to that time of movie making too. And Burton on that shoestring budget wanted it to be a bit of a B movie, but everything still feels, I think maybe just because of like the gross filming of 80s movies, it feels right.
Yeah, it's like quintessential 80s the way this movie feels and looks. And Goo, it's funny to think about. The Beetlejuice makeup in this is incredible. So much so that when I've been seeing trailers for the new
It
one,
looks better back then, right?
it looked better. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
Better.
I don't know if it's too crisp now, but it looks better in the original.
I think, and maybe I'm just missing it, but it's the mold around his face and
Yeah.
mouth. And the eye makeup also looked better back then too. Like it blended better.
Yeah, I don't know, and maybe it's just a trailer issue. Maybe after we've seen the movie, we won't feel that way. But so far, it looks like the makeup for the original is superior
Let's
than to the
also
sequel.
point out that Suicide Squad in 2016 also won an Academy Award for makeup. And my final big note before we get to any of the Octagon or timelining is that the movie poster for this flick fucking rules. It is so good.
My final note before we move
How about
on
you
to the
respond to my
whatever.
final note really quick? Respond to how good my note is. Want to know who it was done by? Artist Carl Ramsey, who
Oh,
also did the
okay.
movie poster for Caddyshack 2.
How about that? How about that? That's a
Yeah.
nice fun fact for the folks
You're
at home.
welcome, folks. Mac wanted to jump right past that. He didn't even care.
My final note is I am absolutely stunned that you and your wife have not cosplayed as Beetlejuice and Lydia from that wedding scene. You know, with him in the purple
That's a good
suit
one.
or dark purple. Well, I think it's purple, and her in the red dress. I think that'd be a great Halloween costume.
You know what? I agree. And then, I don't know, maybe my son could be the shrunken head guy or something.
I also love, and we'll get to this in a few, but like the aesthetic of the whole afterlife is like great. I love that aspect.
Because, like, Beetlejuice is not in this movie until halfway through the movie. You go 47 minutes before he is actually in the movie. Now, you get him on the TV screen for a quick commercial. You hear him talking for a second, but you don't have him interacting with other characters until the 47-minute mark. But it's still fun leading up to that because you're learning about these rules of the afterlife and seeing, especially who is the civil servant there?
Civil servant.
The civil servant, the old lady who smokes.
The caseworker there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it something with a J?
Whatever.
Juno.
Yeah, Juno, but just like the scene setting with her and going beyond, like, behind the scenes of like the filing and all that. Like, this movie in its short amount of runtime does such a great job storytelling.
Yeah, I agree. It tells you everything you need to know and cuts out most of the BS. If there ever was BS in the story, it does a really good job streamlining things. That's for sure. And it's interesting, or encouraging, I should say. So this was just over 90 minutes. I believe the sequel is going to be around 100 minutes or something like that.
I
It's
saw
not going to be
144,
super long either. So that's very encouraging for that.
Shall we get to the nonagon?
Let's do it.
We should have done 6 because that's a spooky number. It's a satanic number. Or 666. Want to do 666?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Fun factor. I love the whole look of this. I love the sound of it. I love the claymation of it. And anytime, and I know we're talking about when Beetlejuice isn't on the screen, how fun it is. When he is on the screen, it's an all-time character, and he is such a fun, quick talking, voice all over the place. He's just so fun.
Yeah, this isn't the most fun movie ever. Don't get me wrong.
No.
But this movie sets out to have fun, and it accomplishes exactly that. It's a pretty fun viewing, and I hadn't seen it in a while, and I had fun watching it.
Borometer, and I'm not going to tell you that it isn't boring at some points, but it's in and out in less than 90 minutes.
Yeah, I actually think, there's a little bit of a smidge of bore in the first 30, 40, but once we're finally into the afterlife stuff, it goes and it's a breeze.
Also, just what a payoff. And I guess so, let's go to Satisfactor. What a payoff of the first 47 minutes. You hear the voice, you see the commercial, you're hearing all of the afterlife people being like, don't summon Beetlejuice. And then when they finally do, it was worth the wait.
Yeah, that is pretty satisfying, but I do think it needs a little bit more afterlife stuff for the movie to be truly satisfying, and I'm hoping the sequel gives us that, but they really just dabbled. They stuck their toes in the afterlife stuff, and I wanted more back then, I wanted more now. So it is a little bit of blue balls when it comes to that.
Then we go to Halloween. That's a spooky word. This is a spooky movie. Has it waned over time? I appreciate different things from this movie with every watch.
Yeah, I hadn't watched it in a while. I thoroughly enjoyed this viewing. I had a lot of fun with it.
Aquator. Is this movie better or worse than Aquaman? It's way better.
Yeah, it's much better, and dare I say, are we calling this now the Aquator world? The
Uh-huh.
Aquator world.
You know what? Let's fucking do that. Aquator is out. It is what is it now?
The Aquator world.
The Aquator World. The Aquator World. Is
The
this movie better
combination.
than Waterworld?
Is it better than Waterworld or Aquaman?
It took us almost 500 regular episodes, but we've finally done it. We're switching. It's fine.
The Aquator world.
When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, and you could look at like not the smaller characters, but like Otho doesn't get as much time, say, as the titular character, or Juno doesn't get as much time as the titular character. Those two characters pop, but you have to give it to Keaton.
This is like the most obvious Plemonade case of all time. I know he's the titular character, but he's in like 6 scenes, and every time he's on screen, it's one of the better parts of the movie. So this is like so obviously Keaton.
And when I had Pop Culture Pile Driver, rest
Oh,
in peace,
R.I.P.
they're in the afterlife now. When I had them on the show to do top 10 Michael Keaton characters, this was number 1. And he has a portfolio of some of my favorite characters of all time.
Yeah, this is it's hard to beat this one. Obviously, he was Bruce Wayne, Batman as well. I think the most underrated one is his other guy's character,
That one's
whose
great. That made the
name
list.
escapes me. That would be on my Rushmore as well. He's just when he's having fun, he's a really fun actor to watch do his thing.
I'm trying to think if that was on my Mount Rushmore. I know that I had Beetlejuice, Bruce Wayne, Ray Kroc, and then I can't think of the fourth.
I honestly think that's why we liked The Flash more than most people, is because Keaton's having fun in that
Keaton's
movie,
so good in it.
and he carries it.
Because that is one thing that does scare me, because it's a spooky movie, about Beetlejuice, is that Keaton doesn't seem to have the same energy, because the energy that he gives you in this movie is insane.
Mm.
In the commercials that we've seen, he doesn't seem to have that same quick talking, quick biting type of energy that he
Yeah.
had.
No, I agree. Something has seemed a little off. Hopefully after we have seen the movie, we don't feel that way, but the promotional stuff hasn't been the best.
Pants 10 City. Excite Bike Mania. What from this movie got you going? And I guess you would say Beetlejuice in action.
Obviously, one of the most iconic movie scenes of all time is that dinner party scene. It's
Yep.
just, it's so great. The song choice is amazing. That's up there. And then again, the afterlife stuff. I love playing around that sandbox, even if it was just briefly. I am really, really hoping the sequel dives into that more.
The shrimp in that scene looks disgusting. It's a handoff. It's a fucking glove, but it looks disgusting. But I do think he said no. I do think that the final scene when Lydia summons him and then it's showtime.
Yeah.
That's boom right there.
Great. It's a great all-time great meme or GIF too. It's awesome.
Max Credit Union, who are you giving credit to?
To me, this is pretty clear in this movie as well. It's Winona Ryder, a 16-year-old Winona Ryder giving a fantastic performance. Her performance, her character is the lifeline of the movie. It's what makes the movie works. And it's very impressive to see someone that young putting on such a good performance.
I would say Tim Burton, because he shifted it from being a horror movie to what we now have. He changed the Beetlejuice character, letting Keaton work with the character to make it what it was. And then also, this is really where he built his God damn it, aesthetic. I can't say it in a sentence, but this is where Tim Burton built his aesthetic.
I totally agree with you. So if you would look behind the camera, I think that's a fair answer. But I think this movie has a hard time working without a performance to the quality of Winona's.
For those of you tardy to the Mac and Goo party, we rate everything on a 40 hot dog rating system. And Mac, I will reveal that when we gave Richard Milhouse Keefe our top 50 movies of all time, I did have Beetlejuice on my list.
Wow.
Now, I will say this, after a rewatch, I might not have it top 50, but I do think it is top 100 to me. I love this movie. I love the look of this movie. I love the performances. I think that Keaton's role as Beetlejuice is one of my favorite characters. I love just that quick manic energy that he gives us. This is truly the beginning of when we saw Burton become Burton behind the camera with these characters, for better or for worse. Lydia Dietz is an all-time character. Catherine O'Hara is also great in this. I'm not, because I think we might have had this in our Mount Rushmore of 1988 movies. It definitely is.
It was
It,
up for vote for sure.
it definitely was. This is a tough one. But I do think that the way they're able to tell this story in under 90 minutes and just be so crisp, get in, get out, something needs to be said for that. The way that they're able to, I'm not sure how this was even in 1988 rated PG. This is not a PG movie. This is a
It's not,
PG-13 movie.
for
Even if
sure.
you take out the cursing, just the dead bodies, it's a bit
Oh,
much.
just the subject matter for
Yeah.
sure. It should have been PG-13.
But the way they're able to slip this as a PG movie, get this under the censors, that's incredible too. I gotta go. I'm going 38 hot dogs,
Okay.
39. I'm not sure if it's a 40. I think this is an absolute classic. It's kind of genre defining. If you're looking at it like, I would say that Ghostbusters, dealing with more of like the horror comedy, might do a little bit better. But this is up here of like, if you're looking for a horror adjacent movie, it's in the Mount Rushmore.
I think it's a good entry level for
Yeah.
that. Like, and we were talking about it the other day a little bit, like when you would start introducing your son to these sort of themes and movies, and
Oh,
this might
after
be a good
watching it,
entry level.
I cannot show
No,
him this yet.
no, you definitely can't.
No, I was like,
Definitely
within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, I cannot show him this.
can't. Yeah, you are definitively higher on this movie than I.
I
I
love it.
watched this movie a ton as a kid. I really enjoy this movie. The pacing is great. The performances are great.
Yeah.
The score is great. It
Score's
just really lacks. It lacks a big uppercut punch. It's got a couple small jabs in there that I enjoy throughout. You just want more Beetlejuice. You just want more afterlife stuff. You're happy to be introduced to this world and this story. I just think it's almost too simple at points. I think I have this at like 34, maybe
Keep it
35
simple,
hot dogs.
stupid. Keep it simple, stupid.
It's a really enjoyable movie, and if people love this movie, I obviously wouldn't be upset, but I have a hard time getting this remotely near the top 50. To your point, you did give it 38, 39. All of my top 50 is 40, 39, and maybe a couple 38 slipped on there. But this isn't in that same territory for me. But I don't blame someone who has more interesting interests
Mhm.
like you for liking this movie more.
Yeah, if they could rework the wedding at the end, I think
It's a
that,
little rushed. It's a little
well, not
rushed.
only that, like just the, she's only 17 type. Like if they could just
Yeah.
because so I think Beetlejuice at the beginning, like he was supposed to be a way worse character.
Well,
And
I
then
also
they
think
shifted.
she's 16 playing like 14.
She's playing 17. I looked it up.
They don't say that at all in the movie.
So she's 13 in the animated show. I did look that because I was like, I'm trying
That
to
seems
figure out.
more like the age she's trying to convey because she's worried about math tests, this, that. She's not driving either. So that screams to me not 16.
Look, obviously Beetlejuice is a bad guy. Let's
To,
toss that
to
out.
what
He's a
to
bad
what degree is he that bad?
/ he wants to get out of the afterlife. That's his
Right,
big thing.
right. That's the whole thing. Yeah,
All right, shall we timeline a little bit?
sure.
All right, I already mentioned how much I dislike the realtor. She's got to get out of their face. Come on, just let them live their lives. But I
Yeah.
also do appreciate the fact that within 6 minutes of this movie starting, our two main characters are dead.
Yep. Yep. 6
And we
minutes
get
they're dead, and we get introduced to the handbook for the recently deceased, which I think is
originally
a
deceased is what he says. So I
yes.
think that is one of 2 or 3 of the best non-Beetlejuice jokes.
Yeah, and I also love that it's a great way to frame this movie or have a jumping off for this movie is to have that handbook for the recently deceased. A very simple but great idea to make this movie go.
Beetlejuice, we hear the voice 9 minutes in. We meet the Deets is 12 minutes in. Catherine O'Hara is just wonderful.
I think
I
you're off by a
really
couple
like,
minutes on those both.
I think
11:30.
I'm completely right.
11:30 for the first peek at Beetlejuice. New family moves in at 14 minutes.
What did you watch it on? Are you watching a different
HBO.
movie than
I
me?
watched it on HBO.
Oh, you know what the issue is? I was watching it on my phone, and it only tells me how much time is left, so I was doing the math as I was doing it. I
Oh,
wasn't
you're off
watching
by
my
2.
Well, go ahead, fucking check my math then. So moving forward, all of my math is wrong.
Yeah.
Ozo is 16 minutes in then?
I didn't put his timestamp.
I have everyone's timestamp because it's a crisp fucking moving movie.
Yeah, no,
It
I have
really
they
is.
they move in, they first enter the house 14 minutes in.
And while they can't see them, I do like the scares that Baldwin and Geena Davis do here.
That they're attempting to do.
Yeah, like, so when Geena Davis is hanging in the closet and then she pulls her face off, that was the time when I said, "My son can't watch this.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old
Nope.
can't watch this."
Nope, he'll have nightmares forever. Goo, here's a thought I had while watching this, and I hadn't quite considered this before, even though it was probably subconsciously there. Did Winona Ryder in this movie mold the interests of a whole generation? I think Lydia Dietz like molded the way or our desires. Like Lydia Dietz walked so Aubrey Plaza could run. Aubrey Plaza is just Lydia Dietz.
Yeah, so Winona Ryder recently talked about this of like, and she's like, I don't want you to like think that I'm saying this, but like Lydia, the character I played, was kind of like the original emo that
For sure.
went mainstream.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. And then
Yeah.
you have a whole generation that kind of grew up on emo music in those types, and I think you could point back to her being one of the first examples of that.
Let me ask you a question. If you were to look at your house
Mhm,
and you looked at the attic and
mhm.
you saw two unknown faces looking back at you,
Yeah.
how would you respond?
That would be interesting because I don't really believe in the afterlife or ghosts or anything like that. I don't subscribe to that. So if I would think they were real people, I suppose,
I'd
living in
call it
my
a
attic.
ghost, right?
Yeah, I would be, I would be I would be a little perturbed. However, because our attic is a pull down,
Yeah,
unlike yours with actual stairs, they would have a hard time coming down to attack me. So
right.
I think I'd be prepared because I'd have to drop through the hole. You're in a different spot there.
Yeah, like my first reaction wouldn't be, let me go check the attic.
Yeah, and actually, like this attic, it has stairs. Yours does as well. So you could end up in a similar situation.
Let me also ask you this. Have you ever encountered ghosts?
Once again, I don't believe in them, so therefore, I think you could interpret that as I've never had a supernatural experience.
I was gonna say, have you ever encountered anything spooky in your life?
Not like when I was a kid, I had nightmares, but like once you learn about stuff and subscribe to some science, I think you're like, oh yeah, ghosts don't exist.
Two things. Number one, do you remember when I told you once that during a fever dream, I saw a horse faced demon at the foot of my bed and you just went right past it without responding?
I don't recall that, and I don't know how I would or should respond to that.
It spoke to me in a vibrating it was very, very odd. I did not care for it. I was very, very spooked. And now also my wife is spooked because
Oh,
my son has an imaginary friend
yeah.
and she's convinced that it's a ghost. And I'm like, kids have imaginary friends.
Yeah, I never did. I don't know if my sister did. My younger brother did, though. I remember
Yeah.
growing up, he distinctly had a imaginary friend named Scoop,
Mhm.
who they actually named they got a family cat a couple years ago. They named him Scoop, an
Oh,
homage to the imaginary friend.
yeah. What I did is so he told us about it. And then I'm like, oh, can you describe him to us? And then he
Mhm.
told my wife every last detail. And she was getting like really, really creeped out. And I'm like, I'm gonna hide that Hugh Jackman thing somewhere and really fucking creep her out later. I'm just biding my time. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, you need to put it like halfway in the doorway to your kitchen so that when
Yeah.
she's going to the bathroom, she catches a glimpse.
What I'm thinking is that she usually does really early morning workouts on Friday mornings.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of doing it tomorrow morning in the kitchen. I was gonna put it in the closet so that when she opens the door, it falls out. But guys, can you help me out?
I think halfway sticking out your kitchen door frame would be perfect.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. Tonight, I'm gonna hide the Hugh Jackman.
You're
Six
just
foot
gonna hear,
five.
"Brian,
Yep.
Brian!"
She's gonna yell. She's gonna scream. It's gonna be worth it though. It's gonna be great.
Goo!
Yes.
24 minutes into this movie, Lydia spots Adam and Barb up in the attic.
Mhm.
And they're confused because they're like, hold on, hold the fucking phone here. I thought we were invisible.
Right, and then we get the Beetlejuice commercial at that point, but then we go to the afterlife, and one thing that I do have an issue with is that Alec Baldwin draws a door on the bricks, right?
Yeah, yeah.
For some reason, when he is drawing the chalk on the top, when there is a very clear line to follow, he, like, goes way off the line.
Yeah, and a kickflip, a Christ air off of that
Yeah.
goo. I'm annoyed that he draws straight lines and then it opens jagged with the bricks. It should just open straight where he drew it.
I think it's because they ran out of budget on that, and that's
Mm,
the reason why they had to have the jagged bricks.
fair enough. I
And then
don't like it though.
also, what's he doing drawing the door handle on the left side? I hated everything about his
Maybe
door.
where they were, it made more sense to open like that. You're right though. You're right. Yeah.
I think that is if they fix the door, if they went in there and post and fixed the door,
40 dog movie.
40 dog movie.
I do like how what's the word? What's the word for not being scared? Because that's what Lydia is in this movie. She approaches it
He's
as
so
if she's a part
nonchalant
of it.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, nonchalant's a good way of putting it. And so they go through the door. They're in the afterlife. I love the aesthetic in here. You see
Mhm.
the shrink-headed dude who I had a toy of when I was younger. I always remember that guy. It's like an iconic looking character. I do also like that the way they frame the afterlife is it's so backed up. It's this complex like bureaucracy, the way the real world is, and you have caseworkers and shit like
It's like the
that.
DMV.
Yeah, it's super funny way to just put that little spin on it. It just it really works for me.
I
This is where
also
we
think
meet.
we get maybe the funniest line of the movie is when Juno is talking to our deceased friends there, and she says, "Oh, this house seems pretty quiet here. Good thing you didn't die in Italy." Smoked us.
Because Italians are loud,
A lot of
loud.
people.
It's a nice joke, real nice joke.
Yeah, also, so I do question what is the dad's scheme here? What he wants to do is sell real estate and make it a ghost town? Is that what he's trying to
I
make money
think they
on?
want to make it like a Salem, Massachusetts type of place with obviously that haunted house as the main attraction, and then you have other stuff down below on that main drag.
But I also hate how so he's a big money making guy, but for some reason he's like asking other he's like, "Oh, this will make me money, right? This will make me money, right?" Yeah, you should have a little more confidence.
I also love the look when they're shooting scenes in in the shrunken model town. Like I
Mhm.
love the way like when they're digging them up, you could see cardboard. Like I love that aspect to it too. It's
Love
like
it too.
it's a great touch on it.
Yeah, so Beetlejuice is finally introduced 47 minutes in, halfway through the movie. He is great. We have him lifting the dress, and then he does the jerk off motion too, which is so funny. And then, my favorite line of the entire movie is nice fucking model. Honk, honk.
And then we get to the dinner party scene, 53 minutes in, iconic, what, 2, 3 minutes of cinema. You've seen it in all sorts of shit, all sorts of montages. And I just love, like, I don't know how they stumbled upon it. Maybe you have a fun fact here, but I love that they use this jump in the line Harry Belafonte song. It just, for whatever reason, it just fucking fits with the aesthetic of the movie and the scene.
And then we get to Robert Goulet. I'm not sure
Goulet,
who the original person was supposed to be here, but I'm Robert Goulet.
Goulet. This might be the only movie I've seen Robert Goulet in.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
I had to make sure it was Robert Goulet.
I don't know if I've now that you say that, and yeah, because that Will Ferrell sketch is A plus, one of the best he's ever done.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can recall another movie I've seen Robert Goulet in.
Well, it was a joke in The Simpsons that when they opened a casino, Robert Goulet was supposed to go there, but Bart kidnapped him and brought him to his treehouse casino.
Oh, Goo, big note I had here. This really pissed me off.
Yeah,
Lydia seems like a pretty bright young girl. She's not scared of anything. She is terrible at charades. Has
really.
no
Yeah.
idea what Beetlejuice is trying to describe. Not a single fucking clue.
And also, not to get too far into this either, but the whole suicide thing at the end, I thought that was a bit of moving quickly for her. Obviously, we don't know what her entire backstory is,
Yeah.
but to go from like wanting to be in the afterlife with the ghosts, I don't know, move pretty quick.
Yeah, and it like and this is sort of it's really bizarre that it is PG. she's essentially writing a suicide note
No,
there
yeah.
towards the end. Like,
Yeah.
that is pretty heavy stuff.
No, and like that's where I could see a lot of people having an issue with this movie is that there is a lot of suicide jokes
Yeah, for sure, for
with
sure.
someone with their accident that they say with their wrists, or
Mhm.
you see the people hanging constantly.
It's they take it a little too lightly, for sure.
Yeah. And then just the iconic ending with the ghosts in their wedding outfits,
Yeah.
Beetlejuice in the red tuxedo.
And this is and that scene is also a big reason why they won the Academy Award, because they do a great job
Looks
on,
amazing.
like, the ghoulish, frail makeup there.
Yep. So once again, this movie's cool.
Yeah, again, I couldn't tell you the last time I had rewatched it. I really enjoyed watching it this time through. I don't remember when we discussed it for 1998 or
88.
1988. I don't remember what I said about it, but man, I have fond memories of this movie, and they were only confirmed by this viewing.
Yes, let's get into Maxac.
And Maxac could be anything. It could be a boat. And jumping off of little ollie off of the movie of Beetlejuice. This was a very popular movie with children. And when you have a popular movie with children, you sell merch.
Yeah, easy.
There were so many toys for this movie. They were made by Kenner, and like there's like 3 or 4 waves of figures that came with this. And because you're dealing with these afterlife characters, these ghoulish creative characters, you could really do anything.
Yeah, I always again, I remember distinctly having the toy of the guy with the shrunken head. Of
Mhm.
course, I had a couple Beetlejuice in the black and white sort of prison attire nearly. I don't know if I had him in the wedding suit, but I love the look of that too. Like that what I'm really hoping for is this second movie at the very least really nails that aesthetic. And I feel like getting Jenna Ortega number 1 as Lydia Dietz's daughter was a great move. She just plays into that for sure. I'm just really hoping it looks and feels like the first movie.
The figure that definitely pops out to me is one that I definitely had was the Showtime Beetlejuice with Rotten Radler. And that is the one where it's the step right up. And he has the circus tent on his head
Yeah, yeah, with
with
the
the bat
hammer
wings.
arms.
I absolutely had that. I probably had this is Shipwreck Beetlejuice. It looks like Marty McFly, but is Beetlejuice. That's odd.
You were in a good spot too, because being that your brother was 2 or
Yes,
3
my
years
brother had a
older.
bunch of these.
Yeah, yeah, so that was definitely nice to be able to have those.
And then off that, jumping off of that as well, let me do a little a grind, if you will. There was an animated show that ran for 3 years after this movie. It had 94 episodes. I think you could watch full episodes on YouTube. It might be on Shout, but this was a very fun animated show that made Beetlejuice. It softened the edges. When he's when he's horny and he's got like the spikes on him,
Yeah.
they grinded those right off. They shaved those right off, and they made him more of a circle than a square, if you will. And
I distinctly remember watching that show. I couldn't tell you one thing about the show.
so he's more of a hero, and it's him helping people in the afterlife, and he's helped by his friend, his 12-year-old friend, Lydia.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing to think about too. So this movie ends with that sandworm devouring him,
Mhm.
and I wonder what type of introduction they do in
Well,
the second movie.
no. So, yes, the sandworm eats him, but it ends, and they did this on purpose because the fans loved the character, is they brought him back to that waiting room.
Ah, that's right. That's
And
right.
then
Yeah, yeah.
he's
He's in the
grabbing the
waiting room.
legs. Do you know whose legs those were?
No.
I forget the person's name, but it's Tim Burton's girlfriend at the time.
Oh, I so think of the spookiest 80s woman, and it was her. How long did him and what's her face date for?
Oh, I can't think of it.
Bellatrix there. They were
Bella
together forever.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a great movie, guys. Go
Yeah.
check it out.
It's if you haven't watched it in a while, it's a I think an easy recommendation because it holds up and it's quick, under 90 minutes.
Also in your sack, not to get too far into my personal life, but I live in a suburb of Boston, and
Well, you live in Boston.
I technically do, but it's not Boston. When I
True.
say that I'm from Boston, they're like, "Oh, are you really from Boston?" And I say where I'm from, and they're like, "It's not really Boston." Whatever.
You're like if there's no traffic, you're like 6 minutes from downtown.
Oh, I live on the highway.
Yeah.
But coming up where I live is something called Alston Christmas,
Mm.
where the students and everyone that are moving out of their apartments put all of their trash on the sidewalk for other people to take. Like, say if someone wants a soiled mattress, this is the time to get it.
The only PSA I'll have here, this is for my 11 years in pest control, 10 years, whatever I did. Um, do not take any furniture out of the trash. It is probably the easiest way, especially in Alston, Brighton, to bring bed bugs into your house. Stay away from that shit, please.
I would argue that I want this day canceled. I hate this
Well,
day.
it's no, it's not by choice. It's because the changeover of the apartments are 9-1. So you got to move out
you know
one
what
and
you
in
can
on the
do?
other.
You
It's
can
it's not by
plan.
it's not by choice at all.
You can plan better when putting all of your garbage on the sidewalk. Mac, I live in a place that is just overtaken by rats.
It's a bunch of people in their teens and 20s that number one can't afford storage places for in between, and number two don't give a fuck. It's
That's correct.
always until your neighborhood becomes gentrified. This is gonna happen forever.
Bring in more rats then. Let the rats run free. Let them do whatever they want then. I'm dodging rats on a constant basis every single day, every single night. I need to, and like they don't bother me, so I don't bother them. They do bother me. They're fucking
You have an
disgusting.
understanding.
We have an understanding, but like I'm constantly like walking from my driveway to my back door, and rats just cross just right in front of me.
Yeah,
Tons of them.
that's just the nature of living in that neighborhood. You just hope they don't enter your domain, and you
I was
you,
like,
you take care of them on the outside.
as
That's all
long
you
as
can
they
really
stay out
do.
of my house,
Yep.
I will, for the most part, leave them alone. But I will ask people to stop putting things out where they can live in
Yep.
or eat
Agreed.
or
Agreed.
eat. But Austin Christmas is so cute. It's just such a cute day. Look at all this stuff you can take. It's all trash.
Yeah,
All
it's
garbage.
it's bed bug ridden. It's gross. Don't touch it.
All right. Where can the people find you or me or us?
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Did I get that wrong? I'm all over the place. Twitter, Instagram, at Mac and Goo Podcast. That is Mac shifts. No, I'm all over the fucking map here today. Mac and Goo Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. Every other platform where Mac ampersand Goo. That's Mac Shift 7 Goo. That includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify. More importantly, we are on Apple Podcasts. Get on there, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars. If you do that, we'll get you a free Mac and Goo t-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. Watertown Sportswear on 34 Mount Auburn Street in Watertown. WatertownSportswear.com. Expert screen printing and embroidery.
Oh, we've gotten a bunch of reviews lately, and I'd like to thank everyone for doing that. We just got one very recently from the handle Thank God It's Almost Friday. 5 stars with the little caption there. Mac and Goo rock my socks off.
Love that. Love to
40
hear
hot
that.
dogs. Yeah, it rhymes.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. There you go.
Hey, Alexa, play the Mac and Goo Movie Club on the iHeartRadio app. Did it start, guys? If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Give us whatever else you do there. You smash that subscribe button. Tell your friends about us, too. We need to grow. We need more reviews, because without reviews, we're just going to die.
Yep.
And
That's
we'll
what
end
happens.
up summoning Beetlejuice to then attack you.
What would be your first haunt if you had to haunt someone?
I'd probably do it. I'd probably do one of my buddies, but as a joke, because I think
No,
it'd be funny.
method, not person, method. What would
Oh,
you do?
fuck.
I think I'd start simple. I would like open all of the kitchen cabinets and like
That's a good
have
one.
them smack it back and forth.
Maybe I would stand on one side of the door and I would take a blowtorch and I'd really heat the handle up so the person burns their hand. That's a good haunt, right?
Yeah, that's a really funny one.
I would light someone's house on fire. Is
Yeah,
that a good
I would
haunt?
fucking third degree burn them.
Guys, send us a post on X right now. What would you do for your first haunt? All right, that'll do it for this episode of Mac and Goo. Check us out next week for Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, Tuesdays are Goose Days. I abuse kangaroos. Tim
Bye.
Burton.
Tim Burton.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.
Now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.